All right, here we go. Kurt Kobane, Death Row producer. Happy to have you on the platform, my man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So before we get into the interview, my man, just let the people know a little bit about your resume and some of the songs you produced while you was on Death Row.
Well, I produced MOB for Tupac. I did the Chronic 2000 album, which was two or three more favorites of everybody's, which was I'm Country, which was a big hit down south for Doobie. Easy to Be a Soldier, When Ain't No War, Realist. There's a few more other ones that came out on future projects, but there's quite a few.
Okay. So with that being said, man, let's get right into it. So how did you first get started with Death Row?
Well, that's a crazy story, and like I said, that's an inspiration to a lot of producers and people coming up in the business. Like, don't give up. I actually had a meeting with Warner Brothers, and it was for a thin line between love and hate, which circles back to a whole nother situation. I went there. I knew what the script was and what songs were needed for each placement for each scene. So I did the beats to everything that was needed to be done in the movie. I went there, and the dude didn't want to hear nothing that I had to say. All he wanted to brag on was, I got these songs from Snoop, and Death Row is messing with my project. I left the meeting. I had nothing left after I left this meeting. I had like $0. Didn't know what I was gonna do, how I was gonna eat, none of this. So I'm from the Midwest, so I know I gotta leave LA. This is it. I've given all I have to give. So I went to the mall just to think and just contemplate like what I'm gonna do. And while I'm sitting in the mall like this, thinking like, what the fuck I'm gonna do? I looked up and I'm like, who is this crowd of people coming down? And it was Suge Knight. I never seen Suge before, but I said, that guy got to be Suge Knight. For some reason, I've been hearing about Suge and just his presence. So I had the tape in my back pocket, and he went into like this Foot Locker, and I got up to go give him this tape, and I walked up to him and I said like, hey, I can get with your boy Dre. And he was like, what? I said, I can get with your boy Dre. He said, what you got? I said, here. It was the same tape that I presented to Warner Brothers. I didn't think nothing of it. I gave it to him, didn't say nothing, didn't tell him what my name was, nothing. Walked away, went back and sat where I was sitting, all depressed and everything. Then somebody came up to me from the camp that I seen with him, and they was like, Shug want to talk to you. I'm like, okay. And then I walk up to him, not realizing this is the same day that Jake, Suge's friend, who was murdered in Atlanta, and you know the whole Puffy situation that came out of that situation, where it was like Puffy might have had something to do with Jake. I went up to him asking him like, so what's up with you and Puffy? That was my first question. I didn't say nothing about my tape or nothing like that. He just looked at me and was like, okay, you asked me about that. He was like, but where you from and all that? And I'm saying, I'm from the Midwest, I'm out here trying to do the music thing and tell him about that and that. He's like, yeah, I got some people from the Midwest. He's like, I got Pac out of jail. And I'm like, what, Pac with Death Row? He's like, yeah, Pac with us. He was like, what you doing? Where you living at? I said, man, I ain't got nowhere to go after this. And he was like, come to Can-Am. And that was my beginning interest to coming to Death Row.
So how was the environment like around Death Row when you first joined?
When I first got there, the interesting scenario that happened was, first of all, when you go into Can-Am, there's a security guard right there. So you sit in the seat. Security's right here. You can't go nowhere. I'm sitting right here. DJ Quick, all these artists are coming by. Dog Pound, everybody's coming in. Then somebody said, like, who are you? Why are you sitting there? I said, I'm waiting on Suge. Oh, it's Danny Boy. Danny Boy said, man, come back and listen to my album. I'm like, okay, let me go back and listen to his album. I listened to his album. 5 minutes into listening to his album, they said, all producers come to this meeting. This is one of those meetings that you might hear about, you know what I mean? We go back there. Well, first I didn't go back there because I'm like, I'm not a producer on Death Row. I'm not going back there. This is how I understood Suge had cameras in the studio. Somebody came up to me and said, he said, you too. So I get up, go back there. There's DJ Quick, all these producers in this room. I sit in the back of the room. I'm like, hey, what the fuck is this all about? This is just letting you know how Death Row moves and how those meetings were. He's getting on everybody's ass in the studio about being lazy, about we got money now, y'all not producing the same, y'all not acting the same. They all on edge because I don't know if somebody's about to get their ass whooped. Out of nowhere he says, that dude back there is what you should be. And I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? He talking about me? I ain't even in this shit yet, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, this is about to be crazy because everybody's looking back and like, who the fuck is he? So Suge makes an example out of me, like he's hungry. He came up to me, he got heat. Next thing you know, he's like, he's a part of the family. Everybody in this office, this room is like, okay. That's my first introduction to what Death Row is like. My first introduction was a meeting. Those meetings that you hear about. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So from there, that's how I got involved with the whole Death Row situation. But I understood from that moment, it was such a mafia type meeting. And I didn't watch so many mafia movies in my lifestyle. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I understood like, this shit is mafia related. Like this label is everything I've heard about before I got there. So that was my introduction to Death Row. And that was, I could say this, that was me being able to understand what was to come of what it was being like, being on Death Row Records.
And Tupac was already on Death Row when you got there, right?
Tupac was already there. Because at the mall, he told me, like that was one of the big things he was talking about. He was like, I just got Tupac out of jail. And it so happened that during my course of trying to get in the music business, I was in New York when Tupac went to jail. I was in New York shopping the deal when Tupac went to jail. So I was right there in the midst of that shit that was going on. So it was kind of crazy to me that like, damn, okay. A few months ago, I was in New York when Tupac went to jail. And now a few months later, I'm here and Tupac's out of jail and Suge done got him out of jail. And I've never heard this before. This is not like, we didn't have social media then, so information wasn't that. You had to wait on a magazine or something to come out and tell you Tupac is out of jail.
So how was it like meeting Tupac for the first time?
Meeting Tupac for the first time, I already had this mentality of like, I kind of thought highly of myself as a producer, so I was not intimidated giving an artist music. It was just when I went to Death Row, I started to understand the click aspect of things. And I got introduced to the guys that was in the so-called whack room at the time. I know you heard about the whack room.
Right. Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah, it was two guys that was in there that were actually artists, learning to be producers, learning how to make beats. So I was in there with those guys. And when I first got there, I'm like, you know, Tupac's in the back room. And they was like, yeah. I'm like, why ain't y'all going back there trying to give him some music, man? This dude's gonna work on an album. So I sat there, came up with like 3 or 4 beats right in like 20, 30 minutes. And I'm like, cassette, I'm going back there. So I go back there like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And he was super humble. That's all I can remember. Like, I gave him the music. He was like, oh, this for me? And I'm like, yeah, this for you, man. Like, listen to it and see if you want something off there. And he was like, oh, man, thanks, man. Like, appreciate everything you're doing for me. Like, da, da, da. And I'm like, man, this dude is like super humble to be Tupac.
When you first joined Death Row, was Dr. Dre still on Death Row?
Yeah, Dre was still with Death Row, and that was one of my main reasons for really trying to deal with Death Row. But in actuality, it's kind of crazy because I didn't really want to deal with Death Row. I was really fucking with Eazy-E. I had a connection to Eazy. I met Eazy. I gave Eazy music. Just Eazy died like a month after I gave him a demo tape. You know what I'm saying? Because I really wanted to compete with Dre. I didn't really want to join, you know, like how KD joined
The Warriors?
The Warriors. Like, I didn't want to be that dude who joined the team that was already bubbling. I wanted to compete. I wanted to join this team that wanted to compete against them. So I was really interested in Ruthless Records. But yeah, he was still there. And the crazy thing about that was Nancy Fletcher, which I give her all the credit, she used to come in the room and listen to the stuff that I was doing. So maybe like a week before she has to call Dre, somebody else had talked to Dre when Dre was in the studio. He was mixing California Love. And they told him, man, come back and check out this new dude that just came. And he came in the room and I was shocked, like, wow, I got Dr. Dre in the room, you know? And I heard about how tough he is on music. So I'm playing in my music and he's like, he's sitting there bobbing his head. I'm like, shit, I got Dre bobbing his head to my shit. And he started asking me questions like, so how you do that? What's that right there? What's that sound you got right there? What's that? I'm saying, oh shit, Dre's really digging my shit. Then he was like, you do R&B too? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm really gonna try to focus on while I'm here. So he's like, work on Michel'le project for me. And he gave me some beats of his. And he was like, see if you can flip this and make it more R&B and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, shit, Dre is really, really fucking with me. So maybe like a week after that, Nancy Fletcher came in and heard some stuff that I was doing, and she called Dre from there was a phone right there in the so-called whack room. She called Dre. She put Dre on the phone. Dre was like, man, you need to come up and fuck with me. First thing I did was went to Suge, like, hey, Suge, Dre want me to come up to the house. And Nancy Fletcher looked up, he's like, don't fuck with that bitch. I'm like, whoa. I said, but okay, Dre want me to come up there to the house. He was like, don't fuck with that bitch. Really? I'm sitting thinking in my mind, like, you and Dre are cool. But he was like, don't fuck with them. So that's when I noticed something was off between Dre and Suge. But at that point, me and Dre I was on the path to being a part of Dre's team. You know what I'm saying? Which I thought was a part of Death Row's team. But I would be a part of Dre's circle. The good guy. I mean, the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? Suge didn't want that.
So when did you find out that Dr. Dre officially left Death Row?
The infamous Sam Sneed beatdown situation.
Right. So, okay. So with that being said, man, give me a play-by-play of that entire day leading up to the incident with Sam Sneed and Tupac. Just give me a play-by-play of everything that happened.
Okay, I'm gonna break it down, and there's gonna be some scoop shit, because I've heard many people talk about this incident, and none of them were there from the beginning. I was there from the beginning. Sam Sneed was in the cafeteria of Can-Am with me, Rage, and a couple other people. Rage was in there. And I know because I just remember because I was always trying to get some music on Rage. Rage is the most difficult artist for her to like some shit that you're gonna do. So she was talking to Sneed about some beats she wanted. I'm sitting there like, okay, shit, I'm gonna get this motherfucker. What she want from him? Okay, I know he ain't gonna do it, but I'm gonna do that motherfucking beat. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there listening to that shit. So I'm like, okay. Sneed's gonna get, she's gonna try to get me for Sneed, but she's gonna get that motherfucker from me, because Sneed ain't gonna do that motherfucker. She ain't gonna do it as fast. He ain't gonna do it as fast as I'm gonna do it. And at the same time, Pac came in the studio. Sneed seen Pac. Boom, they come in. They start talking like it was all good. It was like, he was like, man, I got some beats for you, Pac. And Pac was like, oh, is that right? Yeah. All good. 10 minutes later, meeting in the red room. I said, okay, this is gonna be something interesting. Always a red room is gonna be interesting. I'm not scared of the red room because I ain't did shit. So we go to the red room. This shit turned into all Sam Sneed. So Sneed, Suge's sitting there with the cigar. How it's set up, mafia shit again. Suge sitting at the table, cigar all by itself. Everybody's lined up in different corners all around the red room, but nobody stepping on the circle. But Sam Sneed is right by the circle. The circle is the death row emblem. Don't step on that motherfucker. Red carpet. And it just all turned into Sam Sneed. It's like Suge has a fucking projector and shit, like with Sam Sneed video on the motherfucker. Like, so you mean tell me, do you see any death row people in this video? Hey, was you in the video? No. Was you in the video? No. Was you in the video? No. Hey, be you back there? Was you in the video? No. Sam Sneed is just, he's sitting there like, what the fuck? Because in this mind, he's probably like, I invited all you motherfuckers. Nobody showed up. Ain't nobody going to say like, yeah, this motherfucker invited me. I just didn't come. Everybody like, no. Just say like, who the fuck you signed to? Yeah, who the fuck you signed to? I'm signed to Death Row. He does his Twitch and shit. Who the fuck you signed to? Who the fuck pays you? Death Row. Who the fuck pays for your videos and your albums and everything to be made? Death Row. Why ain't nobody in Death Row in the video? I don't think it's like Sneed head is like, he's probably like fucked up. Like, first of all, ain't none of you motherfuckers y'all not saying nothing about this shit. Pac, I just offered you beats. Before he can even formulate what the fuck to say and calculate what the fuck is going on, 6'8" comes up. He tells 6'8", come up, kick him in the ass. Now this is a new artist, a new group, 6 feet deep. 6'8" comes up, kicks him in the ass. He can't do nothing. Then Pac comes up, they talking. Pac saying some off the wall stuff to him. About Dre, is Dre gay? Have you ever seen Dre do anything gay? And he's saying no. Boom, 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 boom. Pac takes off on him. I'm like, damn, Sam Sneed's getting his ass whooped in this little situation. Then Michel'le, she calls Michel'le up to the front and was like, Michel'le, have you ever seen Dre do anything gay? She comes up with this story about, oh man, this is gonna be some shit to get me in trouble with Dre, but
no, that's all right.
It shouldn't get me in trouble with Dre. She comes up with this story about Bruce and Dre being in bed together. And how she knew they was in bed together because she said she called her bedroom and Bruce answered the phone. And she's like, can I speak to my husband or boyfriend, whatever the hell? And he was like, here. And Dre answered the phone. She's like, how the fuck these motherfuckers? That's my bedroom. Ain't shit in there but a bed. What the fuck is you doing giving the phone to a motherfucker and he's like right there? So, she tells this story. I'm not getting it all at the end. I'm actually like, what the fuck? Myself. So that's when, after that, she said something and she was like, that's why that motherfucker ain't on death row. He's a fucking faggot. You know what I'm saying? He's gay. And then Pac like, yeah, gay ass Dre. He started that gay ass Dre shit chant. And then everybody's like, a few people chant, yeah, fuck gay ass Dre. I'm sitting like, damn, wait a minute. This is the only reason I'm really here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be a part of Death Row is Dr. Dre. Dre is gone. That's like fucking Jordan leaving the Bulls. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be on the Bulls without Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be on the Lakers without Kobe or fucking LeBron. You know what I'm saying? That's just on the Lakers. It's Clippers or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even want to deal with it. But, they whooped Sam Sneed ass that day. And I was still tripping because I know for a fact Sam Sneed offered Pac music. That shit wasn't brought up. Now let me see some things. You know what I'm saying? Like, he offered Pac music.
So who's all the people that put hands on Sam Sneed? 6'8" and Tupac, and who else?
Pac, Outlaws. Pac's clique.
You remember what Outlaws, or was it all?
I don't remember what Outlaws exactly it was. But I know it was Outlaws because it wasn't Suge's clique. Because if it was Suge's clique, it would have been a mess.
So
he didn't get fucked up too much. You know what I'm saying? He got fucked up just enough, like some knuckles to the head. You know what I'm saying?
So what I'm trying to figure out is when all these people like 6'8", he kicked him in the ass. Tupac started hitting on him.
But anyway.
But what I'm trying to figure out is, what was Sam Sneed doing? Was he balling up, trying to block the shots, or was he just taking them? Or
he was balling up trying to take them because he didn't expect the shit. But you don't fight back in a situation like that. You can't win. If you win, you're gonna get fucked up by somebody else. It's gonna take you down. And once it was over, it was like, brush yourself out, boy. We about to go out to eat. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it was nothing. It wasn't even like, it was a show, man. It was a show. I think, in hindsight, I'm looking at it, it was like propaganda to feed to the rest of us, like why Dre left. We got to turn against Dre, and this is the reason why we got to turn against Dre. That's what it was all about.
So you had the Sam Sneed incident, then you had the Michel'le incident where Michel'le said that Dr. Dre was gay, and Dr. Dre and Bruce and all that. What else happened in that meeting?
It was an incident where, like I said, we were all cliques in the studio, and then as a clique, you might have somebody who hung with you that necessarily, like the next day, they might come to the studio by themselves without you. And we warn people about that. Like, if you come to the studio and we ain't here, leave. There was a situation like that. So Kurupt had a situation where he probably was in the studio with somebody, with Snoop. And maybe the next day, Kurupt wasn't there, Snoop wasn't there, but that dude showed up at the studio. And he went in Pac's session without Kurupt, without Snoop. So Pac steady looking at this motherfucker like, who is this motherfucker in this stuff? Why is he here without them? So that became a fucking issue for some reason. So it became an issue, and it was like, this is what he wanted to call out at that meeting where motherfuckers can get beat down at. And it was like, Pac calling out Kurupt. And this is why I have to respect the dog pound and Kurupt with the loyalty that they have for each other. Because in that situation, Kurupt was like, I personally don't know this dude, but he's a friend of the dog. And if he a friend of the dog, he a friend of mine. So I'm standing on this. That's my friend. But Pac was like, man, but he came to my session and then Suge kind of saw what was about to happen and how Kurupt stood on like loyalty. Like, he a friend of dogs, so he a friend of mine. So I'm not gonna say, I don't know that dude. Y'all can fuck him up if y'all want to or whatever. He stood on it. And Suge was like, oh, next issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna let this go down. Nobody's gonna fuck up Kurupt or nothing like that. But again, I sat back and watched that shit like, damn, he came at Kurupt kind of, you know what I'm saying?
So after the Sam Sneed incident, they forced Sam Sneed to go to Snoop acquittal party, right?
Yeah.
Give me the play-by-play about that.
After that whole situation went down, that was weird. It was weird seeing him with lumps on his face. You know what I'm saying? Trying to smile and have a good time. I personally would have been like, I'm gonna be there. Other direction. But he came to the party. You know what I'm saying? It was Snoop's acquittal, which, again, as for me personally, that detailed as I am and watching shit and like learning how not to fuck up and how not to get in a situation, I looked at that shit and I was like, the jury is here. The people who acquitted Snoop are at this motherfucking party. And they're getting on the microphone and rapping. This is some powerful shit right here. How the fuck do you get the jury to be at your acquittal party?
So you think Suge Knight and David Kenner was in their pockets?
Hell fucking, how the fuck are they there? Why are they there? Do you think the OJ had motherfucking the jury at his party? You know what I'm saying? Do you think such had Michael Jackson had the jury at his party? The jury was at the party rapping.
What the fuck?
Rapping. Hell yeah, he was gonna get that shit was bought, you know what I'm saying? And paid for. Whatever the situation was, it was like, again, that's me seeing the power of Death Row at that time. So again, understand the power of Death Row. This shit was beyond just a regular record company.
So what was Sam Sneed doing at this party? Like, he lumped up, got all these bruises. What was he doing? I'm trying to picture it. Like,
sitting there looking stupid. He was sitting there, they had lobsters and shit. You know what I'm saying? But he's sitting there like not hungry. You know what I'm saying? His plate was full as fuck. He had lobster with not even a piece bitten off that motherfucker. He's sitting there looking around like, am I gonna get fucked up here too? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just sitting there looking at him like, this motherfucker has got lumps. I ain't talking about one, nigga. I'm saying like 2, 3 lumps with a lobster in front of you, big ass biscuit and everything. Like, you should be eating good. Everybody like, this motherfucker sitting around like this. I'm out of here.
and I
After
heard,
tonight.
I heard after that incident and after he went to Snoop acquittal party, I mean, they say Sam Sneed disappeared. Like, he was never around Death Row
Best
no
move
more.
you could have made. You know what I'm saying?